Welcome to hybrid something Blazor Maui, cool, fun. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Maddy. I work with Dave, so I know a lot of you were just here for his talk that just happened. And then, did he leave? He already left? Wow, I'm glad he wanted to hang out for me too. He had a cool slide with pictures of him, but my tech story is a lot less interesting than his. But I did grow up in Boston, so this is my hometown. Excited to be here. I drove all 15 minutes it took me, and I was complaining about traffic. It felt great. I tried to find pictures of me at every Boston team sports game, and then I realized most of the pictures of me at the games are actually really either horrible pictures or really embarrassing. So proof, if you asked me what I was going to do when I was a Microsoft intern back in the day, I would have told you I was going to have nothing to do with Microsoft, and I was going to go work at like AMD and go build GPUs. And then Xamarin got acquired while I was an intern. And they were like, we'd hire you. And I was like, yeah, you guys seem cool. And the rest is history. So I've been working on the Maui team for 4 years now, a little bit more than that, which I'm still learning every day. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I work on our developer productivity story for .NET developers targeting desktop and mobile. So .NET's cool. I don't need to tell any of you why it's cool. I think most of you, if not all of you, are .NET developers in some capacity, which is probably why you're here. But .NET is just an ever-evolving ecosystem of stuff that you can target. And we're kind of at the point now where we can target everything. So why not make everything play together nicely, right? And that's what this talk is about today. How many of you are Blazor developers? I know you guys are, because I remember you yesterday. Anyone else? Okay, cool. Good Blazor representation. Blazor's great. I wear my Blazor. It is not nearly as cool as the purple sequined Blazor that you might see at Build or Ignite occasionally. Jeff Fritz is usually sporting that. It would not fit me, but I want it anyways. But this is my basic Blazor. Blazor is a way to build full stack web apps with .NET, so you can use the internet technologies, these bad boys, but you can also use C#, Razor, and run things in the browser. Two different models of Blazor. One is Blazor Server. So Blazor Server is exactly what it sounds like. It runs everything on the server and then just knocks it over SignalR or whatever it is to the document model to your web page. There's also Blazor WebAssembly, which is cool, which actually uses the same underlying technology, or used to use. Now it's all just .NET 6. But used to use the same underlying technology that .NET Mobile used until we combined it all. Very fun. So you can run that natively and do ahead of time compilation and a whole bunch of different stuff. It's very cool. I'm not a Blazor expert. If you have questions about Blazor, you can ask me them, and I will send them to the person who's going to answer them more thoroughly than I can. Most of the knowledge I know about Blazor is from Blazor Maui, because I'm not really a web developer. Definitely more of a mobile developer, but I've noodled around with Blazor, and I'm always like, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could just take my Blazor app and run it locally? That's kind of what WebAssembly is doing, right? Not really, but sort of. And web is everywhere. Web is the cross-platform technology. If you want to target every device, you do a web app. But web doesn't have everything. Web doesn't have things like offline sync. And it doesn't have things like file system access unless you open a file picker and you have to pop that up and then you have to spit it back to the web app. It's not integrated. It doesn't have access to the battery life of the device. There are ways to work around a lot of these things, but it's kind of a pain. So one thing that we really wanted to enable with Maui, because we're good friends with the Blazor team, they're also kind of cool and fun like we are, or so we think. And the Blazor team helped us a lot when we were getting Maui off the ground, because Blazor just came out 5 or 6 years ago now, which is not just, but new to the .NET world, and the Maui team is new to the .NET world, so we became friends, trying to make .NET cool. And so we said, why don't we just take these two things and go like that, just like that, scientific term. And the Blazor team was like, yeah, great. Well, people ask us all the time, how do I get my Blazor app on the desktop? So why don't we just use Maui? And we were like, cool. Will that just work? It turns out it does just work. It was actually not the most technically challenging thing we did with Maui. And there were a lot of technically challenging things we did. But Blazor Hybrid was one of the things that just made sense, and once we figured out what we were trying to do, it just worked. And it just works for people who are using it now, which is really, really cool. So the whole premise of it is there's a web view, right? There's a web view control that your device has, whether that is Edge or Chrome or Safari, whatever platform you're on, there's some native web something, right? If it has a browser, it's got a web view. And Blazor Web View, which is what you use in Maui to stick your Blazor into, just under the hood will pick the right thing for the native platform, right? So we're not doing anything crazy on top of it, but this is kind of the whole premise that Maui is built on, this cross-platform but native UI stack. So we'll do what iOS says a file picker should look like versus what Android says a file picker should look like, or a date picker or a time picker or whatever. Same thing with the web view. If Android wants you to use Chrome, Windows wants you to use Edge, iOS wants you to use Safari. Nobody knows why. They have still continued to put their eggs into Safari, but they have. It's okay. That's exactly what Blazor is going to use under the hood. So I'll show you how scalable it is. You can use a little Blazor, a lot of Blazor. We've gotten into the habit of calling it, you can use islands of Blazor in your Maui app. We're really into this whole Hawaiian theme. We've called things Blamaui. I think that's what my sample app is called. All the different things you want to do. So let's take a look at the basic stuff for Blazor Hybrid with Maui. I'm going to sit down, and let's see here. So I have a Visual Studio window that's going to open. Wonderful. This is a file new Blazor Maui app. So if you install ASP.NET into Visual Studio and you install .NET Maui into Visual Studio, you will be able to do the file new template for Blazor Maui. And this is what you're going to get. And it's a Maui app. So if you're familiar with Maui, you've probably heard us talk about how cool, the shared resources, the shared platform support, all of this stuff is in here. And I'll try and bump my font up where it's easy to, but I can zoom in, right? So this is a Maui app. It has an app icon. It's a native app. It has images. It has a splash screen. But it is just the Blazor file new app stuck into a Maui app. So we'll give it a second to build and run on Windows. This is a Windows app. I mean, it targets everything, but I'm building the Windows one first. And this is just the Blazor template. So if you file new to Blazor app, you're going to get this. My favorite is I go to the counter and I just do like this for eternity, like that. There's the about. It's all Blazor, takes you to the web. Great, awesome, fun. And let's look at this code so we can see exactly what's happening here. The first thing is there's this main page.xaml. And for your Maui app, that's where the app would launch into. But the main page only has one thing in it, and it has the Blazor web view. And that's it. And then it just says my root component for it is of type local main. So if I go into my main.razor, right, it's just a main. And then it says type of main layout. Oh, OK, where's that? Where is main layout? Shared, you're right, thank you. Main layout.razor, that's it. And the main layout is just the top row, the nav menu, that about thing that goes to this. It's just Razor code, nothing crazy. And then all the pages inside of it. So index, welcome to your new app, the counter page, super complicated code here. That's it. That's just Blazor inside of Maui right here. And the way you turn this on in your Maui app, besides putting the Blazor stuff in there, is in your mauiprogram.cs, all you have to do is add Maui Blazor web view. Something else that's cool is, in this case, if you're debugging, we're adding the Blazor web view dev tools. So if I go back into my Blazor hybrid app and I hit F12, it's going to bring up my dev tools for Edge that just works in any part of my Maui app that's a Blazor web view, just like that. So I can click into things and dive deep and use the inspection UI. All these things. It tells me what size it's rendered as. It tells me what it's got my sources for my Blazor app, like it's a normal web app. But this is all running natively without the internet, which is very cool. And then, of course, it's a Maui app, so I have all my Maui tooling. I'm going to do some bad coding practices here. I'm going to add a stack layout, which you could, as Dave says, the grids are better. I refuse to learn grids. That seems like a lot of work. And then I'm going to add a regular Maui label up top, and the text is going to say, hi. And then I'm going to give my Blazor web view also a height request because the Maui part will take up the whole page probably. I'm just going to give this a restart. We are currently fixing hot reloading your Blazor web view while the app is running. If you change like the bounds of the Blazor web view, it screws up hot reload, XAML hot reload right now. We are fully aware we're fixing it, but that's why I have to restart the app. But now I just have a Maui app with my Maui background color, which in this case, sorry, I keep clipping on the mic. I have an obnoxiously loud voice, so mics hate me. But I can just change the background color of my Maui app, and it'll update because it's Maui, because it's XAML. I have this native label here that I can inspect with my Maui inspection tools, right? Just like that. But then I have my Blazor web view right there as well. And all of this data is interactionable. So if I go into the counter page and I click this, the Maui app knows what that counter's value is. You just have to get to it from code. Pretty cool. Did I want to show anything else with the file new Blazor app? I don't think so. I think that was it. If I remember something, I know exactly what it was. Never mind. It doesn't just work on Windows. The cool part of this demo. And it's funny because usually when I travel for conferences, I travel with like 2 or 3 phones, at least 2 laptops, a whole bunch of wires, my iPad. I woke up this morning, I threw my laptop in my bag, and I was like, off to work. And then I was like, I probably should have brought any of the other devices. That would have made it really cool to show Maui running on all these different platforms, even though that's not really what this talk is about. But I could totally plug an iPhone into this and into my computer and deploy this Blazor hybrid app to the iPhone if I so chose. I could also build this app on my MacBook and deploy it into a Mac Catalyst app or an iOS app or an Android app. I could pair to my MacBook over the network and deploy it to the remote iOS simulator. But I didn't bring any of that stuff because I was lazy. And so instead, you're just going to see it on Windows and Android. I don't know. Is Sweeky still here? Sweeky, are you using a Mac today?
No, I'm on Windows, but I can grab my Mac.
No, you don't need to. That's fine. Luce had hot restart working yesterday. It was cool. She's showing people.
Oh, maybe you can show them later if they find us.
But yeah. I will have an iPhone for the first time in my life on Friday. If you were in my workshop yesterday, it's gonna take too much. It's gonna take too much time for me to try and make it work. If I try to do it live, I spent like 45 minutes last night starting to build in a Blazor UI from progress demo. And then I realized if I was going to do that, I was going to break everything else that I had prepared to demo, and it's not worth trying to fix things the night before the conference. But I tried. This is building for Android. That's why it's taken so long. Sorry. But again, same thing. That is the Blazor web view control using Chrome in my Maui app with my horribly sized and oriented label, just like that, but using all the shared native code. So that is Blazor Maui demo number 1. Let's pop into my slides again.
Did you say that was running on Chrome?
Whatever Android uses for its web view, so Chrome.
It's still a web app. It's not a native app. It's not natively.
It is a native app using the Chrome web view component. So I think I have a slide that says this in better words. Yes. Literally my next slide. Great. So what Blazor Hybrid does is it runs 100% of the app natively on the device in one process. So it is not using the browser. It's not using Chrome. You don't have all that overhead like something like an Electron app or whatever. It doesn't have any network necessary, no HTTP, no browser sandbox. But what it's doing is it's rendering the HTML UI into that web view control. So it's using the web view control to understand the Blazor code and render that onto the device, but it's not actually using it to create a website, web browser experience. So hybrid apps are awesome because if you're Blazor developers like these guys up front, and you came to the Maui workshop yesterday and you're like, wow, Maui is baller, like I'm just gonna use that now. You can pretty much take your web skills and just stick them onto the native app, and that's it. Pretty easy. And so you have access to all the native platform capabilities. There's like a 75-minute version of this talk we've done where we actually take some time and we go and we build out like a tray integration stuff. I kind of went for breadth and not depth with this talk, so we're not going to go too deep into the platform capabilities, but you can do it. You can mix your native and web UI, obviously reducing your app development time. And then because it's just a Maui app, you can ship everything to the App Store or use internal distribution, however you would ship a normal app. No PWA, app clip, Android apps, whatever stuff. It's just a regular normal app using your web code. And so this kind of goes back to my first slide here, which is .NET is getting really good at this whole mix and match thing. Like, we want you to just be able to like take stuff from wherever. If you're a .NET shop, you can find a developer in one area and be like, go work on this other thing, and they'll just be able to do that. And I also said at the beginning, you know, like, web is the most ubiquitous platform. If you want something cross-platform, you're going to build a web app. But you lose some of the power with that, especially the power you get. How many WinForms developers are here? Yeah. Do you want your app to be on WinForms forever? Or are you just going to leave it? No. Yeah, I know. WinForms is great. We love it. It's still got millions of developers using it, many of which have said, we're never touching this code base again, so do not break it. Many of which also say, I really don't want to use WinForms anymore, but it's going to be such a pain in the ass to migrate. Yeah. So we're going to try and make your life easy, get you all in the middle somewhere, with a little of Blazor or a lot of Blazor. So I just showed a Blazor app running fully in the Maui app. Now what I'm going to do is show a Blazor component running inside a Maui app, just slightly different. And this is a demo you might have seen before if you're a .NET fan and you watched virtually .NET Conf last year. This is our podcasts app. So the podcast app is huge. It is a giant open source repo. It is, let me see if I can find it. GitHub, Microsoft, maybe? .NET Podcasts. Love it. It is a huge repository. And what it is a website, a web service and a backend that you can deploy in Docker and all that stuff, and then a mobile/desktop app using Maui and BlaMaui. So this is the website. It's just a podcast player. This is fully built in Blazor. So you can click into a podcast like the Maui podcast and start playing an episode, which is the one that started coming out of the speaker earlier. Very simple. This was all built with Blazor. And then what we did was we went and we rebuilt the app, not this one, let me close out of this. We rebuilt the same app using native Maui UI. So give it a second to build. And then I can also pull it up on my Android phone here because I pre-built that one because I was smart. So it's the same app. But this version of the app, we rewrote the UI. Why did we do that? Because it makes it a cool demo. So now this version is using the native player. I can go in here, I can play my podcast. You can see it looks a little bit different because it's using Maui controls, but it's the same app. It does the same stuff for all intents and purposes. But what we said was we wanted to do a listen together mode, right? So you can go in here, and when you're listening to a podcast, and it's going to render correctly, yeah. And you can create a room to listen at the same time simultaneously with someone else. And this component, we decided we didn't feel like rebuilding. So we just used the same listen together component that we had on the web. So I can create a room here, right? And type in my name, Maddy. And then I go into this room, and then I can share my reactions. It gives me a code, all this stuff. The back end of this has been incredibly flaky for the past 2 weeks. So if this actually works, I will cry out of joy. But I am going to show you how the code works. But it's not a public backend, so when it goes flaky, it takes a long time for people to care enough to fix it, which is fine. I'll live. So this is the same thing, though. It's just a Maui app. We have the Blazor web view added to this, right, in our builder. We have a dub root folder with just an index in it. We have in our main page, wherever that is. This is the shell, desktop shell. Discover page, that's the main page. Just basic XAML code, nothing crazy. And then in our listen together page, we have a Blazor web view. Named my web view. The host page is index.html. It's got a background color. And then it's got a root component that is called the Listen Together component. So if we go into the Blazor folder, we have the Listen Together component .razor. And this is just Razor code. And it's just one component. It's pretty hefty. It's got some messaging center stuff. It's got some player stuff. And then join, leave, create, regular state management things. And all of these things are just Blazor code. And so you can make this a separate package and pull it in as like a project reference or a NuGet or whatever. You could build it right into your code. You could have one Blazor Telerik or Progress UI component that you pull down from NuGet and you stick right into your Maui app. All of these things are totally flexible. And then, yeah, I almost said I almost went into the native player stuff, which is not what this demo is about. Yeah, so that's it. It's pretty fancy. I mean, this is just HTML here, right? Like you're bringing in your CSS that you need. You have your Blazor web view. That's pretty much it. So let's see if this actually will cooperate with me today. DL29E is my room code. So this is now the same exact code running. Join Maddy 2. Oh my God, it worked! Oh, that's cool. So now, okay, now if I click out, it's gonna get mad. That's okay. That's all right. Yeah. Oh, Windows. You seek to cause me headaches. But you just saw for a brief second there that I did join the same room instantly with the same Blazor code. You can go and browse in this GitHub repo if you're interested. The website and see the shared component here for Listen Together. All of the things, all of the images, it just references this. Nothing too crazy. Let me see if this will actually work this time. Join Maddy 3, maybe? Okay. Maybe if I react from this window, it will. Oh, but now I'm going to leave the room when I click out. Oh, I didn't. Oh, yay. Okay, I found a bug then. But I can do that. That's very cool. What? Oh, it's not squeaky. Sorry. I thought someone was confused. No, you're fine. Yeah, so I would definitely give this a good scroll. This is just the Blazor component. This is the abstraction of the Blazor component here. You can see it goes into podcast components, Listen Together, which is where it pulls in all this stuff, but obviously it has to do, it's kind of using it as an interface, so it's doing all the right things here for the player service. Good sample app if you want something more complicated. Let's talk about some more stuff. Oh, function. Oh no, come on. I apparently don't know how to use PowerPoint today. That's fine. All right. So there are a couple different app patterns that we're calling Blazor Hybrid. One of them is you can just take existing Razor class libraries, like your Listen Together component from your podcasts, and then just reuse them, right? So take all of your Telerik UI for Blazor and just build that out and then just run it in Maui. Well, that's one. One is actually use your entire Blazor web app, which is that first demo we saw. So just the entire web app itself, not the components. Stick that into a Maui app. And then one of them that is very exciting is my Islands of Blazor, as we've been calling it. Modernize your existing native app with these Islands of Blazor. So who knows that WinForms has a Blazor web view control? Yeah, it does, which is exciting. Which means you can take component by component your WinForms app and build Blazor Hybrid into your WinForms. Slowly move your picker from WinForms to Blazor, right? And then grow the island until it's mostly web or mostly easy to switch out of WinForms stuff. And then either rip out the WinForms part and make it Maui, or just run it as a web app altogether. And you can do that piece by piece, rainy days. I know nobody has free time in sprints because that's not how engineers work. We always overbook ourselves. But you can do that and slowly modernize things with Blazor Hybrid. So this is an old Spot app. It's a dry cleaning management thing. And you can slowly take pieces of this, right? Like these down here, right? Or like this data grid, perfect table, perfect Telerik UI component. I sound like an ad. I'm using Telerik as an example because that's the conference we're at. And then you can just Blazorify it and you get a much nicer version, slowly but surely. So that's exactly what they did when they did a rebrand. They took their app piece by piece, moved things to Blazor components, added that to their WPF, their WinForms apps, and then just ended up with their web app at the end. That was it. And then now they can take this and run it in Maui when they do need to go back to a desktop platform, whatever. So let me check what time it is. What? Okay, good. Oh, we have plenty of time. Oh my God. I could have gone way more in depth with my demos. That's all right. I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. Summary. Web native hybrid with Blazor. Cool. Blazor hybrid is not just Maui, although Maui is kind of the coolest part of it. It's also web WPF WinForms like you saw. You can also use other JavaScript technologies with the Blazor web view, which is pretty cool. We have not tested it. Sam, who was in here earlier and is now doing work, has tested it and supposedly got it working. I don't know how well it works, but he said he ran Angular in a Blazor web view and then ran that in a Maui app, and it worked. And I was like, that's pretty cool. You can, of course, build on .NET MAUI for your cross-platform or use it to modernize. And it's available now. This is not like a preview feature or anything. This shipped with Maui. Totally available in VS 17.4. It's in preview on Mac, which same thing, Maui is in preview on Mac, still the tooling support. But if you get the preview Visual Studio Mac version, you can try it out. Plenty of links. One blog I did want to show, if we had time at the end, which we do, which is great, is Sam's, actually, most recent blog, where he probably saw the title of my talk and was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a blog, and I'm going to publish it 4 days before her talk, so that when she goes to do it, she can just point to this. Perfect timing. And if he was here, I could roast him more about it, but he's not, so now I just have to like lightly roast him. There's also some good sample code at the bottom of this, but he just kind of talks you through what I just did when it comes to native, shared, or just web. Sam, where is the GitHub repo? Here. Nice. So you're welcome to go follow this as well. Oh, that's not what I wanted to click. This one. Wow, great README. Code sharing project, thanks. Super helpful. Yeah, so I poked through his code. It looks great. It's very similar like what we did here. I'm very eager for more examples of people using their actual like first-party components with Blazor Maui, because that will be fun. But I know he's going to continue to do more blogs about this. There's a ton of resources. Another really good one is Elon Lipton, E-I-L-O-N is how he spells his name. He built a Lego brick tracker app with WinForms and Blazor, and then was able to migrate that. He's done a lot of the Blazor Maui stuff. So there are plenty of examples out there. Definitely give them all a look. This was supposed to be your quick, it's literally as easy as it looks when it comes to the file new one. Like it's just adding a couple files in the Blazor web view. So it's not this huge undertaking if you want to try it out. Yeah, all right. Well, that's it then. Let me go back to this where it says thanks, so that I feel like I really finished this. Thanks. Feel free to email me if you are using Blazor or Maui or both. We would love to hear about it. We love talking to our customers, and we use that kind of as a really good evidence on what we should do next. So feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll chat. And yeah, I wanted to open it up for questions. Yes?
What do you recommend for a persistence layer when you're trying to store data offline and you want to synchronize that back when you get back to the office?
Yeah, good question. There's a bajillion answers to that. Luce is like, use my stuff. Luce works at Realm in Mongo, so. Oh, sorry. Sorry. There are a lot of different things, and the devices all handle their kind of caching and offline storage differently. So there's offline support with Maui Essentials, which is kind of our cross-platform, like device platform API layer, and that's really basic. You could go as crazy as building databases and storing those on the device and pulling from those as you want and updating them. But pretty much anything you could do on a Windows machine or on a phone, you can do with Maui and with Blazor Maui. Yeah.
Deployment packages for, let's say you're running it on web, you obviously have your IIS deployment package. If you're running it for the other for devices natively, do you have separate deployment packages that you need to create, or just one single one?
That's a good question. I don't speak use like, do you know?
Could you repeat the question? I don't think I got the whole thing.
Deployment packages, right? So
Right.
your Blazor app is basically web app, right?
Oh, I
That's
see.
gonna live on IIS.
No. So it actually will generate each native platform's binary for you. So
Yeah.
for your web app, and have your web packaged up thing wherever you want to target it, ISL, WSL, however you have your Blazor set up. For the Maui apps, based on whatever frameworks you've targeted. For the iOS, you get an iOS IPA or a .app if you're testing on a simulator. For Android, you get an APK. So you will get the native binary bits at the end of it. It's depending on what target framework you're
What
building
you're
against.
targeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Good question. That was going to be my answer, but then I was like, I might be missing something. It seems almost too good of an answer. Swiki is also our CI/CD expert. If anyone needs help getting their pipelines running with Maui, she has fixed probably like 10 Microsoft repositories at this point. So she just crushes it. Right here.
What was the name of the podcast player apps repo?
Oh yeah, it's Microsoft/.net dash podcasts. This one. And the only problem with the podcasts repo, the only problem I have with it is they expect you to deploy your own Docker stuff, and I don't have time for that. That's a lot of work. So I still use the internal URL, which is flaky, that you're not supposed to use. But you can totally walk through the README. It's very helpful. And it's deploying stuff. It also has the version of the app where we just took the Blazor app and shoved it into Maui, so it's the exact same. Versus the rebuilt in Maui version of the app, which is what I demoed. Yeah. You're welcome. There's CI/CD examples on here too, which is good. What else? Yeah.
How well can, like, if you have a Blazor component in a, I guess, I don't know, proper term, but Maui page.
Yeah.
How well can, like, the Maui page integrate and interact with the Blazor component?
100%, like it's part of it. Yep. So all the state and everything is shared. You can access the variables like you would in Razor with just your C#. I'll try and find the link to the demo I'm thinking of. That he just does that. It's like a 10-minute demo. It's very cool. But he has the counter. Like as he clicks the counter, it updates in the Maui UI.
So if you wanted to, you could kind of do what you did, where you just drop it in there and basically extend the functionality with native device.
Yep.
But the actual interface and backend logic that doesn't relate to the device would all be from using Blazor.
Exactly.
It's on YouTube. Just do Dan, Rod, Blazor, Maui, hybrid. Those are the keywords, and it's probably the first or second video that you did.
Yeah, that's exactly who it was. Yep. Dan's great. If anyone wants to talk to the Blazor guy, Dan Roth, just let me know. He loves talking. He would be happy to hear from you. Or Sanderson. Sanderson loves talking a little bit less, but he will read the email Dan sends about his conversation he had with you and really like it. So, what else? Anything else? Am I going to finish a talk early? This is the best day of my life. I haven't done this in years.